The summer of 1998 had been unusually warm, the kind of heat that clung to your skin and made the air feel thick. Rebecca Shaw had always dreamed of a June wedding, with golden sunlight filtering through the trees and a gentle breeze carrying the scent of wildflowers. As she stood at the altar of the small countryside chapel, her ivory dress glowing in the soft candlelight, everything seemed perfect. The guests, family, childhood friends, co-workers, all watched with misty eyes as she exchanged vows with Daniel Carter, the man she had fallen for during their college years. He looked handsome in his black tuxedo, his smile warm, but his grip on her hands just a little too tight. The reception was held in a rustic barn just behind the chapel, decorated with twinkling lights and bouquets of white roses. Laughter and clinking glasses filled the air as guests toasted the newlyweds. Rebecca, usually the life of the party, had been quieter than usual all evening. Her maid of honor, Lisa, later told police that Rebecca had seemed distracted, even nervous, as if something was weighing on her. Around 10:30 p.m., Rebecca abruptly excused herself, whispering to Daniel that she needed air. He nodded, distracted by a conversation with his best man, Marcus Cole, a broad-shouldered man with a reputation for being intense, the kind of guy who laughed a second too late at jokes. Rebecca stepped outside into the warm night, the music fading behind her. The barn was surrounded by dense woods, the kind that swallowed sound. A few guests smoking near the entrance later recalled seeing her walk toward the tree line, her veil fluttering behind her. One thought they heard a sharp rustling in the bushes, but assumed it was an animal. When Rebecca didn't return after 20 minutes, Lisa went to look for her. What she found sent a chill through the entire wedding party. Rebecca's veil, torn and snagged on a low branch, swayed in the breeze like a ghostly flag. Beneath it, the grass was trampled, as if there had been a struggle. And then there was the footprint, a single, deep impression in the soft earth, too large to belong to Rebecca. It pointed toward the woods, as if someone had dragged her into the darkness. Panic set in. Guests fanned out, calling her name, their voices growing more frantic as the minutes passed. Daniel, his face pale, insisted she must have wandered off, maybe fallen and hit her head. But as the search stretched into the night, then the next day, then the next week, the truth became unavoidable. Rebecca had vanished without a trace. Police scoured the woods, brought in dogs, even drained a nearby pond. No body, no blood, no sign of kidnapping. Just that torn veil, the single footprint, and a growing sense of dread. The case should have been straightforward. Most missing persons are found, or at least explained. But Rebecca's disappearance defied logic. And then, the whispers started. The way Daniel had clenched his jaw when questioned. The way Marcus had left town abruptly 2 days after the wedding. The way Rebecca's diary, found tucked under her mattress, contained pages of increasingly frantic entries about secrets, lies, and a fear she couldn't name. By the time the first anniversary of her disappearance arrived, the case had gone cold. The wedding photos still hung on her parents' walls, but Rebecca's smile in them had taken on a haunting quality. Because one question lingered, heavier than all the others. What really happened to the bride on her wedding night? The investigation into Rebecca's disappearance began with the obvious suspect, her new husband, Daniel Carter. On paper, he was the perfect person of interest, the last to see her, the one with the most to gain from her vanishing. But detectives quickly hit a wall. Daniel had an unshakable alibi. Dozens of guests saw him cutting the wedding cake at the exact time Rebecca stepped outside. His hands had been visible, busy with a knife, when she walked away. No one recalled him leaving the reception, and security footage from a nearby gas station showed his car never moved that night. But something about Daniel didn't sit right with investigators. His grief seemed rehearsed, his answers too polished. When pressed, he admitted that their marriage hadn't been perfect. There had been fights, mostly about money. Rebecca's parents revealed she had confided in them weeks before the wedding, saying Daniel had a temper. Once, after a minor argument, he had put his fist through a door. Another time, Rebecca showed up to work with a bruise on her wrist, blaming it on a clumsy fall. Then came the bombshell from Lisa. the maid of honor. She told police that Rebecca had tried to call off the wedding just 3 days before the ceremony. Over coffee, Rebecca had whispered, "If I don't go through with this, he'll never let me leave." Lisa assumed it was pre-wedding jitters. Until Rebecca never came back. Detectives turned their attention to Daniel's inner circle, starting with his best man, Marcus Cole. A former college roommate with a sealed juvenile record, Marcus had a reputation for volatility. Witnesses recalled him drinking heavily at the reception, his eyes locked on Rebecca with an unsettling intensity. When questioned, Marcus claimed he had been too drunk to remember much of the night. But his story had holes. He couldn't explain why his boots matched the muddy footprint near the torn veil, or why he had boarded a flight to Mexico 2 days after the wedding. Then, the case took a darker turn. A forensic sweep of Daniel's home revealed traces of Rebecca's blood in the trunk of his car, old, degraded, but undeniably hers. Daniel swore he had no idea how it got there, blaming a nosebleed she'd had months earlier. But the timeline didn't add up. The most damning evidence came from Rebecca's diary, hidden beneath her mattress. The final entry, scribbled the night before the wedding, read, "I know what he did. If I disappear, it's not an accident." But without a body, without a murder weapon, the case stalled. Daniel walked free, Marcus vanished overseas, and Rebecca's family was left with only questions. Until the day a hunter stumbled upon a single wedding shoe miles deep in the woods, and the nightmare began all over again. The discovery of Rebecca's discarded wedding shoe sent shockwaves through the investigation. Found nearly 12 miles from the chapel in a remote stretch of woods, the satin pump was caked in mud, but otherwise intact. No blood, no visible signs of struggle. Its very existence defied logic. How had it traveled so far from the crime scene? Why was only one shoe found? Most chilling of all, why had it been placed neatly atop a flat rock, as if deliberately left to be found? Forensic teams combed the area, but found no other traces of Rebecca. No clothing fibers, no disturbed earth to suggest a grave. The shoe's interior revealed faint traces of sweat and skin cells that matched Rebecca's DNA, confirming it was hers. But the exterior told a stranger story. Analysis showed microscopic flecks of a rare automotive grease used in high-end European cars, a detail that sent detectives back to the original witness statements. The anonymous tip about a blood-stained man in a tuxedo speeding away in a black sedan suddenly took on new significance. Detectives tracked down every luxury vehicle registered within 50 miles of the wedding venue. Only 3 matched the grease's chemical signature, one owned by a retired doctor, one by a local businesswoman, and one by Marcus Cole's uncle, who had lent Marcus his Mercedes the week of the wedding. When confronted, Marcus's uncle admitted the car had been returned the morning after the wedding with a cracked taillight and mud caked in the wheel wells. He thought nothing of it at the time. Now, faced with this new evidence, investigators obtained an international warrant for Marcus's arrest, only to discover he'd disappeared from his supposed home in Mexico months earlier. Then came the break no one expected. A cold case detective reviewing old files noticed an odd connection. Marcus had worked part-time at a storage facility during college, the same facility where Daniel rented a private unit. When police obtained a warrant to search it, they found the space empty except for 3 items: a shovel with soil still clinging to its blade, a gasoline can, and a single pearl button identical to those on Rebecca's wedding dress. The soil analysis revealed traces of lye, a chemical used to accelerate decomposition. But without a body, the evidence remained circumstantial. Then, just as the lead seemed to go cold again, a forensic botanist made a startling discovery. The dirt on the shovel contained fragments of a rare orchid that only grew in one place: the abandoned graveyard behind Daniel's childhood home. As investigators prepared to excavate the site, they received an anonymous letter postmarked from Brazil. It contained just 5 words. The letter's arrival threw the investigation into chaos. The elegant, almost feminine handwriting didn't match Daniel's blocky print or Marcus's messy scrawl. Forensic analysis revealed the paper was premium stock, sold only in boutique stationery shops, and the envelope bore traces of a floral perfume, details that pointed to someone entirely new. Detectives scrambled to trace its origin, but the Brazilian postmark led to a dead end. The mailing address was a crowded São Paulo mail forwarding service used by hundreds daily. Undeterred, investigators proceeded with excavating the graveyard behind Daniel's family home. The dig unearthed nothing but animal bones and rusted farm tools, until a rookie officer's shovel struck something metallic. Buried 3 feet down was a fireproof lockbox, its combination rusted shut. Forced open, it revealed a stack of Polaroids wrapped in plastic. Each showed a different woman in a wedding dress, their faces frozen in terror. The last photo was Rebecca's, her mouth gagged, eyes wide with panic, dated the night she vanished. The discovery shattered the case wide open. This wasn't just about Rebecca. They were dealing with a serial predator. Forensic analysis placed the other victims as far back as 1989, all reported missing after bridal showers or wedding rehearsals. None had ever been found. Most chillingly, each photo bore the same marking on the back, a tiny, inked symbol, a crescent moon with a slash through it. The symbol led detectives to an obscure true crime forum where users discussed unsolved cases. A decade-old thread mentioned the same mark in connection with a suspected serial killer dubbed the Groom, who allegedly targeted brides-to-be in the 1990s. The posts were written by a user named Moonwatcher, who claimed to have insider knowledge. When tracked down, the account belonged to a reclusive bookstore owner named Evelyn Graves, Daniel's estranged aunt. Evelyn, when questioned, revealed a family secret. Daniel's father had been suspected in at least 2 disappearances in the 1970s, though nothing was ever proven. She tried warning Rebecca before the wedding, mailing her an anonymous note, the one Rebecca had referenced in her diary. But by then, it was too late. As detectives pieced together the horrifying connections, another Polaroid surfaced, this time mailed to Rebecca's mother. It showed Rebecca alive, her wrists bound, with a newspaper dated 6 months after her disappearance. The message scrawled on the back turned the case on its head. She lasted longer than the others. The implication was clear. Rebecca might have been kept alive. And if that was true, someone else had been involved. Someone who wasn't Daniel or Marcus. Someone still out there. The graveyard excavation was abruptly halted. They'd been looking for a body. But what if Rebecca, or what remained of her, wasn't underground at all? The final Polaroid sent to Rebecca's mother ignited a desperate search for answers. Forensic experts confirmed the photo was authentic. The newspaper in the background was genuine, and the ink matched the same batch used in the other Polaroids found in the lockbox. But the most disturbing detail was Rebecca's expression. Unlike the other victims frozen in terror, her eyes held a glimmer of defiance, her jaw set as if she'd been fighting back. Investigators theorized she might have been held captive somewhere remote, kept alive for months before meeting her fate. A renewed search of Daniel's properties turned up nothing, until detectives noticed irregularities in his financial records. Over the years, he made several cash withdrawals totaling nearly $50,000, always in small bills. Even stranger, he purchased a decommissioned church in upstate New York just 3 months before the wedding, a property listed under an LLC with no obvious ties to him. When police arrived at the decaying building, they found the basement padlocked. Inside, the air smelled of damp earth and something metallic. The walls were soundproofed with egg cartons and moving blankets, the floor stained in patches that flew arrest under UV light. In the corner sat a rusted metal chair with leather restraints bolted to its legs. But the most damning discovery was hidden beneath a loose floorboard, a small jewelry box containing a lock of auburn hair tied with a white ribbon. DNA tests confirmed it was Rebecca's. The evidence suggested Daniel had been keeping her there, but something didn't add up. The church showed signs of recent activity, fresh tire tracks in the mud, a half-empty water bottle dated 2 weeks earlier. Someone had been here long after Daniel's suicide. Then came the final twist. A forensic accountant traced the LLC that owned the church back to a shell corporation, one linked to Evelyn Graves, Daniel's aunt. When confronted, Evelyn broke down. She admitted to mailing the Polaroids, but not to protect Rebecca. She claimed she'd been trying to expose Daniel, fearing he'd followed in his father's footsteps. But when pressed about the recent activity at the church, her story fell apart. Security footage from a nearby gas station showed Evelyn's car passing through the area the week before, the same day Rebecca's mother received the last Polaroid. Detectives found Evelyn's fingerprints on the jewelry box. The case was closed, but the truth remained fractured. Had Evelyn been trying to help Rebecca, or was she part of something darker? Why had Daniel killed himself just as the net tightened around him? And most haunting of all, were there other victims still undiscovered? Rebecca's body was never found. Her wedding portrait still hangs in the chapel where she vanished, a silent reminder that some nightmares never truly end.